there, aloha and welcome. This is Magdalena in another episode of Touchful Podcast. And usually at this moment, I would give you a little bit of short introduction what this episode will be about. But this time, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to start with a story about crystals and soap bubbles, since this is the title of this episode, that life is about crystals and soap bubbles. And I was giggling so much when I decided that this would be the title of this episode, because I was like, I wonder what would people think when they see the title of it. So I genuinely wonder what went through your head when you saw the title of this episode and you decided to press play. So I want to start with the story of crystals and soap bubbles, and that would serve as an introduction into today's topic. But before I dive in, I want to shortly introduce myself for those of you who are here for the first time. So again, my name is Magdalena. I am a practitioner and teacher of Hawaiian healing art called Lomi Lomi. I'm from Poland, I live in Iceland, and this podcast is my platform of talking about touchful life, which is life with open heart, life when you touch the world and you allow the world to touch you, life in integrity, in truth, and in an embodied way, so life through the body. Since I am a body worker and a massage therapist, it cannot be otherwise. Okay, so let's dive into today's topic. So this quote, this story that life is about crystals and soap bubbles, comes from my last road trip around Iceland, which was probably a month ago. So every year, me and my best friend, we go on a road trip here in Iceland. We visit different places, and this year it was the ring road. We did the whole ring road. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's the main road that goes like a circle around the whole island, and it's a very popular tourist destination. We did it many times before, but never together, so that was our way of celebrating our friendship on a ring road. And the story that I want to share happened on the east of Iceland, when we visited the old crystal mine in Iceland, the old spar mine, Icelandic spar, which is a type of a crystal. So there is an old abandoned crystal mine on the east of Iceland. And I visited this place many times before, but again, never me and my best friend went there together, so we decided that, okay, we are doing it, of course. It was maybe day 3 of our road trip. And we went there, and first it was like pouring rain, so we just, instead of going out, we totally chilled and had a nap in a car. And then when we woke up, it was such beautiful sun and the sparkling water of the fjord and the perfect weather to admire the crystals of this old mine. So we went there, and right before we left the car, my friend half jokingly said, I think she was looking for something in a box, and she saw a box of soap bubbles. You know, this kind of thing that children play with, that you blow it and it creates beautiful soap bubbles. And it was mine, and I decided to take it on that trip. And she was like, yeah, I can see that you have this. And she said some ironic comment about it, kind of like pointing at the fact that I have it with me. And I was so talking about how I will be making soap bubbles on the way, and I never did. And I never had done it, so I took it. And then we went for this short hike to the crystal mine, which was absolutely beautiful. Like every time I go there, I don't know, it just makes me smile. And I sat on the ground, and the sun was beautiful. It was lighting up the crystals, and all this like shimmering and beautiful light effects on the crystals. And I took out the soap bubbles, and I started to play with them. I started to make the soap bubbles. And my friend even, she took a photo from a distance of me, and then she told me, "Look, Magdalena, your life is about crystals and soap bubbles." And I was like, wow, it actually is. In this very moment, my life is about crystals and soap bubbles. And how cool is that? And that made me realize that I have this little habit that I sometimes, it's not a habit. If it was a habit, I wouldn't forget about it so often. So I have this little thing that I practice, that if a moment is good, if something really nice happens, like sitting on the ground filled up with crystals, or walking on crystals and having fun and making soap bubbles, I like to notice it. I like to pay attention to it, and I like to say out loud, or like at that time my friend pointed it out to me, that at this moment life is about this. At that moment life was about crystals and soap bubbles. And it's something that this little thing, this little habit, it started many years ago with my sister. I have an older sister. And again, each time something was really good, like we had a really good meal together, or we had some sort of fun together, she would very often say like, "Wow, what a life I have, what life I live." And it was never about anything extraordinary. It was usually about quite simple things. And she would kind of say it like half joking, but also half true. And I picked it up from her, saying very often like, "Wow, what a life I have." And very often I say it out loud to myself that, yeah, my life is about this. Like today, there was a moment when my life was about sitting on a porch and feeling the sun on my skin. Right now, my life is about having a beautiful scented candle right next to me and talking to a microphone with a huge smile on my face, sharing things that are important to me. And I feel that the most important thing, and this is the topic of this episode, this is what I want to share with you, is to notice when things are good, and to notice when a moment is good, and to notice when you are happy, and to say it out loud to yourself, because it somehow makes a difference when we say it out loud. And I feel, I don't know if you agree with me, but I definitely see it in me, that there is this awful quality of my mind that so easily pays attention to moments that are not so good. That when I feel stressed, when I feel like a failure, when I feel not good enough, when I feel anxious, when I have this like spinning thoughts in my mind, when I'm in pain, it's so easy for me to pay attention to it and to almost like fixate on it, that, oh, I'm so poor, I'm not good enough. I call it a pity party. And, I'm a failure and this and that, and sort of drowning myself in this pity party moment. And instead of that, instead of paying attention to moments that are shitty, or maybe not instead, it's not about this kind of like bypassing and pretending that difficult moments don't exist, because they definitely do, and they want to be acknowledged as well. So it's not instead, it's to have at least equal amount of mind energy, or even more of this mind power, going into noticing when things are good, when things are nice, when things are okay. Again, it doesn't have to be anything particularly extraordinary or very unique or very unusual. It can be a very ordinary moment which becomes a little bit more special the moment I notice it. That, hey, it's actually nice. It actually feels good. At this moment, my life is about, like it was a couple of moments ago, my life was about eating a very yummy soup. And it just feels nice. Is it special? Probably not, just an ordinary moment. But when I give it my attention, the way I feel it for myself is that the magic of this moment is awakened. So if you hang out with me, if you've been here with me on this podcast for quite some time, you probably have heard me using the phrase ordinary magic. And this is how I feel each time I notice that my life is about crystals and soap bubbles. That there are so many good moments. And actually, even in the moment that feels hard or feels heavy or feels like I'm unhappy or confused or angry or disappointed, I don't want to discard that. I don't want to pretend that it's not there. But I also want to be able to find something that feels good about it. I want to give you an example, so it's just not empty words. I had a little bit of a down moment today, and I actually still feel a little bit down because of something that happened today. And it's something that made me feel anxious and confused and angry and frustrated and just in like very all kinds of like these uncomfortable feelings and regretful and whatnot and sad. And I was in this. I was not pretending that it's not there. And in being in all this, I decided to share it with a friend. I decided to record a message to a friend, and I told her about what happened and how I feel, and she replied, and I had this glimpse, this moment of noticing, like, wow, at this moment my life is about me feeling down and being able to share it with a friend. And that feels precious, that I'm not alone in this moment. So again, I cannot stress it enough that I don't want you to feel that it's some sort of like an escape mechanism that we pretend that heavy moments or difficult moments don't exist. They certainly do. It's a part of being human, that it's just all kinds of moments. But again, like I said, I have a feeling that those moments that are good are so much taken for granted. At least I'm gonna speak for myself, that there are so many moments that are so beautiful and precious and loaded with happiness, actually, with this just simply feeling good and feeling nice. And I don't know how many times I took these moments for granted, instead of stopping for a moment, taking a breath and saying to myself, wow, right now my life is about this. whatever it is. Right now, my life is about this. So I want you to let's have it practical. I want you to take a moment in whatever you are doing, wherever you are listening to this podcast. Maybe you are walking the dog, or biking to work, or maybe you're at home doing some chores, or I don't know where. I'm actually very, very interested. Where do people listen to my podcast? So wherever you are right now, whatever you do, take a moment to pause, to take a breath, and to notice that right now your life is about this. It is about listening to a podcast episode and, having a walk in nature. Just notice. It doesn't have to feel especially extraordinary. I bet that this very moment, when you listen to this podcast and maybe you just listen, or maybe you do something, I bet that this moment is not the happiest moment of your life. It's not the most extraordinary moment of your life. It's not the most ecstatic moment of your life. It is actually quite an ordinary moment. So by paying attention to it and by saying to myself, wow, it actually feels nice. At this moment, my life is quite okay. I feel that, to me, it feels like really honoring this moment and not taking it for granted. Because deeply, deeply, the truth is, when you think about it, that it's not taken for granted. That's not what I want to say, that it's not something that is guaranteed to you. The other day I read a very powerful quote. I don't remember verbatim, but the sense of the quote was that when you take another breath, somebody somewhere takes their last. And that got me thinking that actually every breath that I take is not something that should be taken for granted. I feel that this episode starts to be like a little bit like philosophical, or I don't know if it feels heavy, but kind of like, a very serious mood suddenly. And I'm not sure if it's what I wanted, but here it is. It is what it is. And I also feel that this episode will be quite short, actually, because this is exactly what I wanted to deliver to you. And a funny thing happened a couple of days ago. So when this whole situation on the east of Iceland with this crystals and soap bubbles, when this situation happened, and when my friend told me, Magdalena, your life is about crystals and soap bubbles. Do you see that? So when this moment happened, I was like, wow, I'm going to write a newsletter about it. And then I was like, even more wow. I was like, no, I'm going to record a podcast episode about it, and I'm going to call it Crystals and Soap Bubbles. So here I am doing it a month later. So I already knew that I want to talk about it. I want to talk about how important it is to pay attention to seemingly ordinary moments in our life and to cherish them, to name them. And then a couple of days ago, a funny thing happened. So my other friend, he's a writer, and he wanted me to see one particular video. It was a lecture by Vonnegut, and the whole lecture was very interesting and inspiring and funny, and just a pleasure to watch. And at the end of the lecture, Vonnegut shared a story, which apparently is a story that he shares on his every lecture, and it's a story that he incorporates in his many books. And it is connected to what I'm talking to you about right now. So I want to give you the quote. So like I said, you can find the quote in some of his books and in some of his lectures. And I believe that this quote that I'm going to give you now is from Timequake. So it is about his uncle Alex. And he said that when things were really going well, we should be sure to notice it. He was talking about simple occasions, not great victories, maybe drinking lemonade on a hot afternoon in the shade, or smelling the aroma of a nearby bakery, or fishing and not caring if we catch anything or not, or hearing somebody all alone playing a piano really well in the house next door. Uncle Alex urged me to say this out loud during such epiphanies. If this isn't nice, what is? End of quote. And sometimes this is it's this famous quote by Kurt Vonnegut. Sometimes it is also quoted as, "If this isn't nice, I don't know what is." And this is exactly how he said it on that lecture that my friend made me watch. If this is nice, I don't know what is. And I was like, whoa, Kurt Vonnegut also knows that life is about crystals and soap bubbles, and it's so important to notice all these moments. And call me an ignorant if you want to, but I didn't know this quote by him, which is apparently a super famous thing. But I didn't know that. But yeah, here it is. It's another way of paying attention to simple things and just saying to yourself, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. If this moment of me sitting in my beautiful home and talking to you about something that makes me smile, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. So I invite you to practice this, to practice noticing little moments of happiness, little moments of goodness, little moments of joy, little moments when things are maybe not so very special, but they feel nice, they feel good. And if you want to take this practice a little further, a little deeper, it's something that I really like to do about all kinds of practices that I do. So the moment I say to myself that, right now my life is about this, and pay attention to what changes. Deeply in you, what changes? Maybe it will be a physical sensation in a body. Something changes, something shifts, something lifts. Maybe it will be more of a mental impression or a feeling that comes. Pay attention to this subtle change, because it's almost immediate, and I feel that it's inevitable. At the moment we pay attention to the aliveness of the moment and the miracle of the moment, that something shifts, something changes. And I also realized, so many things, for me, click right now and they come together. I realized that this is very often something that I invite my massage clients to do, especially if we have a moment of cacao ceremony before Lomi, and we sit together and we have this moment of breathing and drinking cacao, and I usually take them on some guided meditation. And very often this guided meditation, this journey, is about simply being and paying attention to this moment without the need to change it, without the need to improve it, without the need for it to be different. Just simply, I very often say this to my clients, it's just simply notice that right now you are sitting, breathing, drinking cacao, listening to music, and it is what it is. And then if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I don't say it to them, but maybe I should. Or just simply notice that, right now, my life is this. Take yourself from there and then, from floating somewhere in these mental realms that have sometimes so much power over us and the power to take us into weird mental spaces and states. Take yourself from out there into this moment, this so very ordinary moment, and make it magical and special by noticing it. So I feel that I sometimes imagine that our awareness is like a light, like a flashlight, and that we can direct our awareness into different things, and by this bring them to light. So again, when I think about my clients and the meditations that I sometimes invite them for, we very often do this like body scan, when you bring your awareness into different body parts and simply taking a breath into each body part, again, without trying to feel different or to feel special or to change something, but simply to take all your attention into this particular body part. And I sometimes, the way I imagine it is that it's the light is being lit, that the light is being put there. And I feel that it's the same with this practice of noticing the moment, that you take all your attention, all your awareness into simply this moment, and just looking around and telling yourself, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is, quoting Vonnegut. Or if you want to use my method, then just look around and name it, like, yeah, right now my life is about this, and how it feels. And that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you today. I wonder how it resonates. So if you feel like sharing, please do. Please drop me a line. And if you know somebody who should hear this, please send them the link to this episode. Thank you so much. Thank you for you. If you like what I do, if you like these episodes, you can buy me a coffee. There is a link in the description of this episode that allows you to give me a small amount of money for 1 cup of coffee, or in my case it would probably be a cup of cacao, because I don't drink that much coffee to be honest. Yes, and you can subscribe to the podcast. You can what do you do with the podcast? You can review it, you can like it, you can do anything you want with it. Everything that you do with this podcast, sharing, reviewing, liking, it really helps me to get to more people with it, with this little message of touchful life. And it very much connects in my heart, in my mind. This practice that I shared with you today, it very much connects with touchful life. Like, I feel that by paying attention to the beauty of the moment, I feel like I touch the world at this very moment. I touch this moment with my heart, with my awareness, very often with my gratitude, because what naturally comes up very often in such moments is gratitude, is noticing like, wow, I actually have so much. My life is so okay. And it takes us, like I said, from all this like, oh, I wish things were like this, and I want this, and if I will have that, then I will be happy for sure, and so on and so forth. Bringing ourselves back into this moment and anchoring in this moment, so touching this moment with your presence, and in return you allow this moment to touch you and to bless you with everything that it has, with all the gifts that it has. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for you, and you will hear from me next time. Aloha. Bye bye.